On today's episode, Toughest Mudder South preview with Brian Gowiski. This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast. My name is Will Hicks. Thank you for listening. You are listening to the number one rated obstacle course racing podcast in the world because of listeners like you leaving ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. Thank you for leaving those reviews. Today on our show, everything Toughest Mudder South. We're going to talk with one of the elites running this weekend, Brian Gowiski. Brian's national relay team finished in first place last year at World's Toughest Mudder with 120 miles. Before we start, you can email me at willhicks@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Toughest Podcast, and you can find us on Instagram at World's Toughest Podcast. You can also be a part of the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, and I will read it on a future episode. If you've already left a review on Apple Podcasts, thank you. If you are still hankering to hear your words on the air again, you can leave us a review on Amazon. Just search Amazon.com through the app or through the website, either way, for World's Toughest Podcast, and we are the first one that pops up. The reason you can find us on Amazon is you can now listen to World's Toughest Podcast on your Amazon Alexa device. Just say, Alexa, enable World's Toughest Podcast skill.
Okay, here's World's Toughest Podcast. Welcome.
And then whenever you want to listen to the show afterwards, just say, Alexa, play the latest episode of World's Toughest Podcast.
Playing the most recent episode, 074, The Mental Side of TMX with Orla Walsh.
Do you think World's Toughest Podcast is coming back? On today's show, second place TMX Miami winner, Orla Walsh. And you are in business. Very excited to be on Amazon Alexa. Alexa is still in the early stages. Right now, Alexa is good for ordering from Amazon, learning new dad jokes, and listening to World's Toughest Podcast. Let's talk Toughest Mudder South. Toughest Mudder South will start at midnight Saturday night, ending at 8 a.m. Sunday morning on May 5th and 6th. It will be held at McMahon Ranch in Smithville, Texas, near Austin. Toughest Mudder is an 8-hour race held on a 5-mile looped course. The man and woman who complete the most laps in the allotted time will be the winners. Here's how the time works. The race will start at 12 a.m., midnight, in one large start wave. The starting line will close at 7:45 a.m. You are not able to begin new laps after 7:45 a.m. If you are on the course after 7:45, you'll have until 8:30 a.m. to complete your last lap. If you do not finish that lap by 8:30 a.m., it will not count. None of that mileage of that last lap will count towards your final mileage total. Pricing is as follows. First place for the men and women, $5,000. Second place, $2,000. Third place, $1,000. Fourth place, $500. And fifth place, $250 American dollars. The top 5 finishers will also qualify as elite contenders for World's Toughest Mudder. Last year at World's Toughest, the elite contenders were awarded with the best position on the start line, reserved pit spaces, and they qualified for the bonus prize if they won World's Toughest and hit a mileage goal for their gender, 110 miles for the men, 100 for the women. Tough Mudder has not officially announced the elite contender perks yet for this year, but I anticipate them being similar as last year. Other prizes and awards you can earn at Toughest Mudder include complete 25 miles, and you will receive a 25-mile Toughest Mudder patch. Complete 50 miles, and you will receive a 50-mile Toughest Mudder patch and free entry into World's Toughest Mudder. The man and woman who run the fastest first lap, we call it the sprint lap, will receive a green bib and a free Tough Mudder entry. And every runner who completes 8 hours will receive the black 8-hour Toughest Mudder headband. Last year, there was a $5,000 bonus on top of the $5,000 for winning the race if the man and woman who won the race also completed 50 miles. It was given out 4 times. Of the 6 races, 4 of them, the bonus was given out at. 3 times to Ryan Atkins and once to John Albin at Europe's Toughest Mudder. That $5,000 bonus has not been mentioned in any official Tough Mudder literature this year. In addition to all those awards, all men who complete 30 miles and all women who complete 25 miles will qualify for contender status at World's Toughest Mudder. Contender status will get you a better start line position, early access to select your pit area, and is a requirement to qualify for prize money at World's Toughest Mudder. I'm not going to read the entire list of rules. If you are running this weekend, they've already been emailed to you. Reading and understanding the rules is your responsibility, not mine. Something else I want to emphasize, this podcast you're listening to right now is not a production of TMHQ. I am not an employee of Tough Mudder. The podcast has 0 official affiliation with Tough Mudder. If you listen to the rules that I am about to summarize and have a problem with anything on race day, it is on you. Not me, not World's Toughest Podcast, not Tough Mudder. You are an adult. Read the rules. I am happy to help, but knowing and understanding the rules is 100% your responsibility. If you have a problem and you're angry about it, you can email me. ignorespam@juno.com. Definitely hold your breath waiting for a reply to that email. But I do want to highlight a couple of common questions. Do I have to wear a wetsuit? No, you do not have to. In fact, this weekend in Texas, you may not need to, but you should definitely bring one, just in case. Do I have to wear a strobe? Will a glow stick work instead? Yes, glow sticks are fine. In the past, they were kind of a gray area, and we all got away with it. But now it's official, it's in the rules, glow sticks are fine. You have to have a headlamp, and you have to have a strobe or glow stick to do the race. You won't be able to get to the start line without that. You won't be able to start any additional laps without a headlamp and a strobe or glow stick. If I need medical help, am I disqualified? It depends, but probably not. You can go to the medical tent for up to 30 minutes without being disqualified. Medical does not want to DQ you. They know about the 30-minute time limit, and they will hustle to get you back out. Here is how you can be medically disqualified. If you are transported by medical, you will be disqualified. If you are helped by a lifeguard, you will be disqualified. You can even get medical treatment on the course as long as they don't transport you, and as long as it takes less than 30 minutes, you are golden. But don't be afraid of medical. They are on your side. How much pit space will I get? Officially, they say you'll get 2 feet by 4 feet. Depending on how many people are at the race this weekend, you may get less than that. You may get none of that. But you only need probably half of that. You're only going to be in the pit a few times, probably just 2 or 3. 4 or 5 times in the pit for 99% of you listening right now. Will not be in the pit more than 4 or 5 times. You don't need a whole flat of water. You don't need 3 wetsuits. You don't need 4 different varieties of Tailwind and granola bars. Here is a rule of thumb. If you can't carry everything in one trip, you're bringing too much. What other gear do I need? What you're required to have to run the course is a headlamp and strobe and your timing chip and bib. Other than that, that's what you need. There's obviously, you want to have nutrition. You want to have water, Gatorade, or Tailwind. Here's 2 pieces of gear that I love for toughest mudder. Blegmitz and my Merrell Agility Peak Flex trail running shoes. It's too late for you to get Blegmitz for this weekend. They ship from Australia. They will not get here in time. But you can get a pair of Merrell trail running shoes when you get there. They won't be open Saturday night, though, so you'll need to go there Saturday morning during the regular Tough Mudder. Go to the Merrell tent. They'll have a big orange tent up. You can try the shoes on. You can try them out. They'll have an inclined climbing wall kind of thing. And you can have a brand new, sexy pair of Merrell trail running shoes for toughest mudder. The new Merrell All Out Crush 2.0s with the BOA lace are great, but they do run like a half size big. So be aware of that. Just be aware of that when you're checking them out. When will all the obstacles open? They will open when they open. They'll probably all be closed at the very beginning, and some may open at 12:15, maybe not. Most will be open by 12:30. They should all be open by 1 a.m. That is 100% subject to change, though. That was different at every single toughest mudder last year that I went to. If it's different than what I just said when we get there, talk to TMHQ, not me. Or you can email me, ignorespam@juno.com. If you have any other questions on the rules, please consult the rule book that was emailed to you. Knowing and understanding the rules is your responsibility. Let's talk about the weather. As I record this, weatherchannel.com says weather for Saturday night will be 58 degrees, 10% chance of rain, with 80% humidity. You will be sweating standing still at the start line. Sunday morning will be similar, light winds possible. But here's the deal. On Friday, the day before the race, there is a 90% chance of rain with gusty winds. Friday could wreak havoc with the course, and we'll have to deal with that on Saturday night. Let's talk about the elites. Who will we see out there running, and who can we expect to win? Let's talk about the women first. Here are the elite women who have told me they are coming. Rhea Coble, Allison Ty, Lindsay Webster, Adrienne Alvord, Casey Northup, Alexandra Walker, Deanna Brass. So who is going to win? Rhea Coble is the women's reigning champion of World's Toughest Mudder. She won last year leading wire to wire, which has never been done before by a man or woman. Usually what happens is the people who lead at the very beginning, they're leading because they went out too fast and they end up blowing up. Sometimes after a few hours, sometimes after 8, sometimes after 12 hours or even 16 hours. But no one's ever won the sprint lap and then won the whole thing. And Ray did that last year. Toughest Mudder South will be her first 8-hour race. And I can hear what you're saying. Well, if she led World's Toughest Mudder wire to wire, that means she was leading at the 8-hour mark, so she should win this 8-hour race easily. And that sounds right, except for 2 things. Every other woman at Toughest Mudder South this weekend will be running faster than they did at World's Toughest Mudder. World's Toughest Mudder, you pace yourself for 24 hours. They will all be running faster. Allison Tai, Lindsay Webster, every single woman will be running faster for the 8 hours than they did for the 24 hours if you check lap times. We check lap times afterwards. Second thing, an 8-hour race is completely different than a 24-hour race. The pacing is completely different. They're both endurance races. They're both longer than most people would choose to run, but just because Rhea won wire to wire does not mean she will automatically win an 8-hour race. Allison Tai will be there. Allison ran 5 Toughest Mudders last year. She won 2 of them, Toughest Mudder Philly and Toughest Mudder Chicago. She also won the Toughest Mudder Series Championship for having the 3 best toughest races. So she won 2 of those 5 toughest. She did not win the other 3 she ran. Who won those 3? Lindsay Webster. Lindsay Webster won all 3 Toughest Mudders she ran last year. She didn't do as well at World's Toughest Mudder in November, but this isn't World's Toughest Mudder. This is an 8-hour race. And Lindsay Webster has dominated the 8-hour race category. Those are your top 3 women. Rhea Coble, Allison Tai, Lindsay Webster. I don't know what order they'll finish in, but barring injury, I think those will be the 3 women on top of the podium. That leaves 2 elite contender slots for the rest of the women. Who will those go to? There are 4 strong women I know of, and I'm sure there will be a surprise or 2. Let me tell you about the 4 women I think could make some noise. Casey Northup. Casey finished 4th at Toughest Mudder twice last year. She told me she likes to finish close enough to touch the podium, but not on the podium. Adrienne Alvord. Adrienne was also an elite contender last year. She was very consistent with multiple finishes in the 5th to 8th place range. Deanna Brass. Last year, Deanna specialized in winning Tougher Mudder races. She would win Tougher Mudder on Saturday morning and then run Toughest Mudder on Saturday night. She told me she knows that running Tougher Mudder in the morning cost her mileage at Toughest Mudder on Saturday night. If she skips Tougher Mudder on Saturday morning this weekend, I would expect her to make a run at the top 5 at night. Alexandra Walker. This will be Alexandra Walker's first Toughest Mudder, and really her first competitive Tough Mudder. She has had success on the Spartan race circuit, and especially the Savage race circuit. And she did well at TMX Sacramento a few months ago, top 10. She's a wild card. She could finish 4th, or she could finish at 4 a.m. and be done. And again, don't be surprised if there's someone we've never heard of that breaks into the top 5 this weekend and makes some noise. Let's talk about the elite men that will be there. Ryan Atkins, Matt Lister, Chris Mendoza, Brian Gowiski, Sean Stevens-Whale, and Miguel Medina will all be running Toughest Mudder South. Ryan Atkins is the greatest endurance obstacle course racer in the world. He has never lost a race 8 hours or longer. He is the odds-on favorite to win this race and any other race he enters. I would pick him to win a race against a horse as long as the race was 8 hours long. The men looking to dethrone him. I say their name and then a quick blurb about them. If any of these men beat Atkins this weekend, that will be their blurb from here on out. This guy, the only guy to ever beat Ryan Atkins at an 8-hour race. Ryan Atkins may not win. He's probably going to win. But he may not win. He will. But he will definitely finish in the top 5. That leaves 4 elite contender slots for the following 5 guys. Matt Lister. Matt was one of only 5 men to run 50 miles at a Toughest Mudder last year. He did it in Chicago. The problem was Atkins ran 50 also, and he did it faster. Brian Gowiski. We're going to talk with Brian in a minute about the course. Brian was on the national relay team that finished first at World's Toughest 2017. Christopher Mendoza. Chris is one of only 7 men to ever run 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder. He also has his own theme song. Christopher Mendoza. Miguel Medina has a World's Toughest title under his belt from his team win in 2014 with Team Spartan Wolfpack. He also was an elite contender last year based on his 5th place finish at Toughest Mudder Chicago. Sean Stevens Whale is an acclaimed tower runner. He does races up skyscrapers and other tall, iconic buildings like the Eiffel Tower. He finished 3rd at Canada's Toughest Mudder last year. He would have won 2nd, but Robert Killian did his Robert Killianist and finished a one last lap right under the wire and took 2nd place. So those are the 5 men that will be competing with each other and Ryan Atkins. Matt Lister, Brian Gowiski, Chris Mendoza, Miguel Medina, Sean Stevens Whale. Other people that will be there just for fun at Toughest Mudder South, Heather Bodie of the Overcome and Run podcast will be there. I didn't mention her in my elite women a few minutes ago, but if Heather finishes in the top, if you finish in the top 5, I will do a whole episode with you and talk about how great your OCR podcast is. Overcome and Run. Top 5, Heather. Yancey Culp will be there. Yancey is the most well-known trainer in the OCR space. He trains a lot of elite OCR athletes, and you can sign up under those athletes and get the same workout plan they're using. Check out yanceycamp.com for more. We're big fans of Yancey on the old show here. Sue Harvey Brown will be there. She has been a guest on our show a couple times. If you have any questions about Merrell's shoes, she can answer them. Actually, she's going to be running Toughest Mudder, so don't bug her during the race. Ask the guys at the big orange Merrell tent. They can help you too. Jessie Strawham will be there. She's been a guest on our show a few months ago. She is the only person, man or woman, to complete the Tough Mudder Holy Grail. That's a toughest, and World's Toughest Mudder. To complete the Holy Grail in a wheelchair. She has a YouTube series you can watch called Wheel With Me. Also, Superman, David Tyson Perry, will be there. He ran World's Toughest Mudder in a wheelchair also last year. We haven't had him on the show yet, but David and I have been talking online for a while, and we will get him on the show. He was also on the Amazon series Road to World's Toughest Mudder last year. And I will be there as well, but you probably won't see me. I will be at the back, minding my own business, jogging, shuffling, walking. This will be the first real test for my rehabbed ACL since I hurt it last October. So we're going to take it easy this time. But if you see me, please feel free. Come up and say hey. Love to talk to you. Are you going to be at Toughest Mudder South? Maybe you're listening to this afterward. How did you do? Let me know in a review on Apple Podcasts. Speaking of, let's read some iTunes reviews. Our first review comes from Melissa SC. 5 stars. I stole an iPad off some kid in the park just so I could leave this review. 5 stars. Ha! Just kidding. Great job, Will. Jeff Hoskins. Jeff, your Apple ID says Melissa SC, so I'm thinking maybe you did steal that iPad off of a kid in the park. Jeff, give Melissa her iPad back. Thanks for the review, though. Our next review comes from Gabby Peterson. Gabby writes, the best, hands down, 5 stars. Will does a great job of keeping listeners interested by delivering a wide variety of OCR news, interviews, and tons of helpful insight. I mostly listen on solo runs and frequently find myself laughing out loud while running through the woods. Not so cool, but true. Thanks for all of the hard work and humor that help keep me motivated and focused enough to overcome the next epic obstacle in my path. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Gabby. I appreciate the kind words. It's not hard work making the show. I'm not digging ditches or mining coal, but it does take time to prepare each episode. I'm not just turning on the mic and freestyling here. I'm glad you're out in the woods when you are laughing out loud, because if you're on your headphones in a mall or at Target when the joke hits, they will look at you funny. Thank you, Gabby. Last review comes from Lost in the Woods in Ohio. He writes, "Awesome, 5 stars. Great interviews, great information, and a great listen. I look forward to getting this in my ears, unlike that nasty Arctic enema water. See you in Atlanta. Damien was here." This isn't like the lunch table where you carve your name into it at school, but I appreciate the review. Damien will be joining me in Atlanta for World's Toughest Mudder this November, where he may or may not have to put more of that nasty Arctic enema water in his ears. Well done, Damien. Thank you. If you'd like to be a part of the show, like Jeff Hoskins, Gabby Peterson, and Damien was here, you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts too. Open the Purple Podcast app on your iPhone and search for Tough Mudder. We're the first one that pops up. Scroll down and then click on Write a Review, and I will read it in a future episode. If you've already left a review on Apple Podcasts and you want to do something different, go to Amazon and .com or the app, whatever, and search for World's Toughest Podcast, and you'll see us pop up, number one. Click our logo, and then scroll down and click Write a Customer Review. We're on Amazon, baby. You can also click the Enable button. That'll help the show. If you have an Alexa, it'll help you find the show, listen to episodes. Even if you don't have an Alexa, you can just click Enable Skill. It'll help the podcast, help us move up in popularity. We're going to talk with Brian Gowiski about Toughest Mudder South. Brian was on the national relay team that finished in first place at World's Toughest last year. They finished with 120 miles, nearly an hour ahead of second place. He will be running his first ever Toughest Mudder this weekend at Toughest Mudder South. It's time to talk with Brian Gowiski. Let's go to the phones. Brian Gowiski, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Brian, tell me about your first World's Toughest Mudder.
Well, it was awesome. I wish I had done it earlier than I had done it. But it was a really cool format for me to break into this ultra running style. I was on the team with Ryan Woods, Glenn Race, and Chad Trammell, and we were able to do the relay format, and it went very well. And I found a new love in OCR, these longer events, and that's kind of where I'm focused this year, actually.
Tell me about that. You're going to run Toughest Mudder South this year. You're going to focus on other long races this year?
Yeah, so the goal for me since World's Toughest ended and when I started making my goals for this year, this Toughest South was my quote-unquote first A race of the year. And my plan is to see how I do here and kind of plan the rest of my season out after this. If it goes well, I'm going to plan more of these. If something happens, it doesn't go so well, I'll probably change my race schedule a little bit. But this is my first big race this year.
What does doing well look like to you? Is it a certain mileage or is it a certain podium spot?
Definitely podium would be doing well. I'm going in with the goal of getting a podium spot, and I think that usually averages around 50 miles, I believe. Is that what Atkins was doing last year?
The 50 miles will definitely get you on the podium, and it might get you the win. No one's beat Atkins yet, but
yeah, obviously the goal is to try to give him a run and see how long you can stay with with him. I know it's a pretty hefty goal, but that's the goal.
I've told people before, he's not invincible. I mean, he's a person just like you or me. Now, he's amazing, but no one's invincible. Chad Trammell almost beat him last year. It took a superhuman effort from Atkins to beat Trammell last year at Toughest Mudder West.
Yeah, that's what I remember following that race. And I think Woods got out in front of him in Atlanta as well. So, yeah, I mean, I've raced Atkins a bunch of times. He's gotten the better of me many times, but well, actually all the time. But I'm hoping to give him a little bit of a run this weekend. Something
that's good about him being so dominant is that there's no shame in losing to him. Like, finishing second to Atkins is basically a win, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yep. I hear what you're saying for sure.
So at World's Toughest last year, your team finished in first place with 120 miles. Second place also finished with 120 miles, but 51 minutes behind your team. Tell me about the race between those two teams.
Yeah, it was very exciting. I mean, the race wasn't over until that last lap. I mean, you can tell by the results. Those guys we were not pulling away from them. We were always being told that they were, within 30 to 40 minutes of us. So that was made for an exciting race. And yeah, I mean, from the team perspective, we had a pretty good plan going in, and I think we executed that plan pretty well. And we didn't have too many issues, really. I think that made it. Well, they've done the relay format before, right? That wasn't the first year they did that?
You know what? They were going to do it in 2016, but they backed out. They kind of chickened out last minute. But this is the first year with the national relay team, or with any relay team.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I think, I touched on it earlier. I think that is a good way to break into this type of event. Probably doing an 8-hour race like this is good, but if you want to do World's Toughest and only World's Toughest, so that relay format's pretty neat. So if anybody out there is looking to get into this kind of racing, I recommend that if they come back with it. I haven't heard either on that yet, if they're coming back with that this year.
I haven't either. Yeah, I'd imagine they would. It was pretty popular and pretty successful.
Yeah.
So you said you guys had a good plan. You executed your plan. Not to give away the secrets or anything, but generally, what was that plan?
Yeah, well, the plan was Ryan and Chad were going to run together most of the time because they were the faster of the two of us, and Glenn and I were going to run together most of the time. And then our plan was, once we got into a full wetsuit, in those dark hours, our plan was to do 2 laps apiece and do kind of a relay, like a snake. So like we would all do 2 laps and then we'd all get a lap off kind of format. But we obviously the plan didn't go super well in that. We had to make a few adjustments. So I ended up going with Chad and Ryan because a couple of guys were having trouble on obstacles. A couple of guys were getting cold. But we were able to, once the sun rose, we were able to get back into our pairs and finish the race out that way.
Wasn't Germany in the mix there also with you guys for a while?
They went out hard. I do believe, if I remember correctly, they went out. They were leading the first few laps, and then I think they we pulled them back in. And I don't think they ended up falling way behind. I think they still finished third. But I think it was a 2-man race for most of the time, or 2-team race.
So the rules required teams to run the first lap and the last lap together, and then at least half the team had to be on each lap during the rest of the race. Of the 120 miles your team ran, how many of those do you think you ran?
We all had an even split. We all ran the same exact mileage. It was, I think it ended up being 65 miles apiece is what it was. So it kind of turned out that our laps averaged about an hour, about 55 or 50 to 60 minutes, in those nice hours, the daylight. And then they obviously slowed down during the night, and they were getting closer to to 70 to 85 minutes.
So relay racing is pretty unusual in obstacle course racing. What did you think of running a relay race?
Yeah, it had its benefits and consequences, but it was pretty neat. It was just kind of annoying to stop at times. Once you get your legs moving again, you almost don't want to stop, especially when it's cold and you're wet. So like, I think it's good in one way because you get a rest, but then in the other, it's like I'm stopped, I'm sitting down, I'm eating, and now I got to get back up and run again instead of that continuous motion of just going and going like, an individual like Atkins was doing. So I think it's a little bit different depending on what kind of a person you are. If you're able to bounce back up after you recover, then that's good for you. If you can just if you have a big engine, you can just go at a slow pace. That might, that might be better for you to do individual. So yeah, definitely it's pros and cons for sure.
What did you guys do for that 55 minutes or 58 minutes while your other teammates were out running? Did you roll out? Did you take a nap?
No, that wasn't much time to nap. That's for sure. But I would for me personally, I would try to roll out a little bit. The other guys were getting straight out of their wetsuits, but I just was so annoyed of getting in and out of it that I would just take the top. This is a full wetsuit, and I would just take it down to my knees, like drop it, and then just put a coat on, and just kind of sit there and shiver and take in some calories. I would sit down during it, but yeah, I did try to lay down once, I think, when I had that a little bit longer break after my 2 laps in the night, but I wasn't able to fall asleep. There was just, it's just a lot going on. Adrenaline was still going.
A few weeks after World's Toughest Mudder, it came out that one of your teammates did not pass a drug test at a different race. Based off of the other race's drug test, Team HQ stripped your team of its first place finish and bumped everyone else up. How did you find out Team HQ was taking the win away?
Actually, I found out from my sister. She's really into this OCR stuff, and she texted me and she said something about Ryan. Oh my gosh, about Ryan. So I looked it up and I saw the article that OCRWC had posted saying they DQ'd him, and then it was kind of just a waiting game to see what WTM was going to do. And then a week or two later, they reached out to us and told us what was going on. And they explained why they were doing it, and it is what it is. They did what they did, and you just got to live with it. They made it right with me, Chad, and Glenn, and they gave us free entries to their races this year, so that really helped out in that regard. And me and Ryan Woods' relationship isn't any different. I've trained with him a few times already this year because we're both here in North Carolina, and I already told him that if they come back with this team event, that I'd be more than happy to team up with them again.
If you ran World's Toughest this year again, would you do it the team, or would you think about individual?
Again, it depends on how these toughest go. These toughest go. If I do well, like I said, and I get a podium or 2 podiums, then I probably would try the individual route. And it depends on the team. If the team from last year want to get together again, then I might do the team. I guess what I'm saying is I haven't really decided, but I'm open to both.
I can see some appeal of getting the band back together and getting back what
Redemption.
was taken from you. Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Let's talk about Toughest Mudder South.
All right.
Toughest Mudder South will be held the night of May 5th in Smithville, Arkansas. We'll talk about the obstacles in a minute, but what do you think of the course in general? You've seen the course map.
Yeah, it looks. I'm comparing it to World's Toughest Mudder course a little bit, and I think it may be a little bit easier. I don't think there's as much water. which is nice because that can get cold being in and out of water. I see the the end might be. It looks like that's where most of the grip type obstacles are. I don't know if you plan on running through every obstacle, but we have Rope-A-Dope to Kong Infinity, and there's a few, the Funky Monkeys right in there, and just the tip. So that's a lot of grip stuff right there, you know?
Well, yeah, let's talk about the obstacles. The course starts out with a long run, and then your first obstacle is going to be Quagmire. Tell me about the obstacle Quagmire.
Yeah, I think it's just a big old mud pit, a deep mud pit, and I think that's all it is. Am I right?
Yeah. How do you? Yeah, it's just they just dig a hole and there's mud in there, and but how do you get through those quickly when you're competing, like trying to go through fast without hurting yourself?
Well, it depends on if it's I can't remember. Is there water or is it just mud?
You know, I think that's going to vary depending on the course.
Depending on the course?
I've never run a Tough Mudder in Texas, so I don't know what the mud's like down there.
Yeah, I've ran a couple races there, but not in a while, so I forget. But you just kind of got to walk through it if it's water, because you don't want to hurt yourself. You can't really run through water. But yeah, you just kind of hop around, and then I think it might be a little difficult to get out of there. Towards the end of the pit, and that's where your fellow competitors can lend you a hand, getting up out of there.
There's another long run after Quagmire, and the next obstacle is Kiss of Mud 2.0.
Yeah, this is a barbed wire crawl, if I'm right. And that's just, you probably aren't going to want to, well, depends. I know at World's Toughest Mudder there was gravel, and that was very uncomfortable. Might have been the worst obstacle there. But yeah, if you can, I guess rolling would be a good method. But if it's rocky like that, you might be better off just doing the army crawl. But I kind of will switch back and forth. I'll roll, and then I'll do the army crawl, and then I'll roll a little bit. But you don't want to get dizzy, when you're already tired from running for that long.
Yeah. And especially over 8 hours, I don't think, one obstacle is going to make or break the win. So.
Oh, yeah, right.
After Kiss of Mud, another long run, probably the last long run on the course, and then Lumberjacked.
Yeah, I think these are just the log hurdles. I don't think I've done these at a Tough Mudder yet, but I would just imagine they're about like a 4-foot wall. So you just, whatever you need to do to get over a 4-foot wall, probably just putting your hands on the log and kind of hopping up and over. Yeah,
they're usually like mid-chest for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but in they're maybe lower mid-chest. And they're not so hard at the beginning of the race, but toward the end. And also, if you're a girl where you're, maybe 6 inches or a foot shorter than a guy, I could see them being a lot harder to get over. Yeah, and
that was what I liked about World's Toughest Mudder. Like, we're all competing, but everybody is lending a hand to each other, like, even if you're on the other team, like at World's Toughest Mudder, maybe Austin Azar, he was the second place team, and he may have lended me a hand, like, you're competing, but you got to get over the same stuff, and sometimes you need an extra hand.
After Lumberjacked, the fourth obstacle is Ladder to Hell.
Yeah, another wall sort of thing, but it's more of like a ladder. So you just kind of walk up it like it's a ladder, and once you get to the top, you just go over the other side and come down. So the key here, I think, is when you're lifting that leg to go up and over the wall, you just got to be careful. You're not, a lot of people get cramps in that position. So you just got to be careful with that.
I don't know what it is about this obstacle, but especially after you're going for 4 or 5 hours, this one causes cramps in me a lot in my legs.
Yeah. That's what I assume so. With some people, that'll be an issue. So yeah, just make sure you're hydrated coming into the event and during the event. Should help.
The next obstacle is Devil's Beard.
Yeah, this is the net crawl. So they put that heavy cargo net down on the ground. I know at World's Toughest, they were through the mud mounds, I believe, and that made it pretty difficult. I don't know what their plan is this weekend. I've done it tougher, and it was just on the ground. The easiest way to do this is if you're approaching it with a group of people, everybody goes in side by side. It's a lot easier when you're helping each other lift the net up.
Do you go head first or butt first?
I go butt first. Yep, because I think my head gets caught, especially with a headlamp. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
After Devil's Beard is Pitfall.
This another mud pit, but they put random holes in there. So this is where you definitely want to walk because this is a good ankle twister here. So just you got to be very cautious going through this one.
Yeah, I think it's an important point. It's 8 hours long. It's a long race. One obstacle is not going to decide the winner or the loser. But
exactly.
But a twisted ankle on Pitfall would.
Yes. Yep. Very good point.
After Pitfall, the next obstacle is Creek Crusade.
And I have no idea what this is. Is it a crossing? Are we crossing a creek maybe?
Yeah, I think it's a creek crossing or a river crossing. They had one of these in Chicago last year. And there was a rope across, so you could pull yourself across the water, or you could just walk/swim across. But
so you could touch then.
You could touch. It was probably knee deep at the beginning and end, and then it got to chest. It was deep for the girls. Like it was upper chest deep in the middle. So.
I'm surprised they didn't do that. What they call it, Statue of Liberty crossing last year in Vegas.
Statue of Liberty. Yeah, that's a fun obstacle at World's Toughest.
I'm surprised they didn't do that here. That made it difficult. So this will be probably pretty cold. That obstacle, I would imagine. I mean, I know it's pretty warm out there right now, but I don't know how long it takes for that water to get warm, but. I know here in North Carolina, the water is still pretty cold. I've been on the lake here. It's cold.
Especially if it's moving water also, it'll be colder.
Yeah. Yep.
The 8th obstacle is Cage Crawl.
I haven't done this obstacle since I did my first Tough Mudder in 2012 or 2011, and I hated this obstacle. If you are claustrophobic in the slightest way, you're gonna hate this. So if you don't know what it is, it's I think it's probably like a 50-foot body of water, and they put these chain link fences down, and you have about 6 inches between the water and the fence, and you gotta crawl in between that little space, and just basically the only thing out of water is if you're laying backwards from your ears to your forehead. So you just gotta make sure your head's up out of water, because it's not a good feeling. I mean, if you don't have a problem with small spaces, you'll be all right. But two things I hate is probably being claustrophobic, and more important, drowning is my worst fear of dying.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm right there with you. So here's how I get through this obstacle. It used to be it still is. It's a hard obstacle to get through. But if you find the middle, where the chain links come together, there'll be a bar. And that bar goes the entire length. And just if you can stay on that bar the whole way, it'll make sure you go straight. And so you're not going side to side and, zigzagging your way through it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then mentally just know that if you do have a problem, those chain link fences, they come up. All you have to do is stand up. That chain link will pop up immediately.
Oh, okay.
So you can't... you can't drown. I know it's super stressful, and it gets in your head, and you'll get a mouthful of water, and you're like, I'm dying. Yeah. But all you have to do is put your knees down and just sit up, and you're fine.
Yeah. Yep. I did not know that, so that's very good. Must be the water's not super deep then.
Yeah, it's pretty shallow. Yeah. After Cage Crawl is Just the Tip.
Yeah, so I've been seeing that. I haven't done this obstacle, I don't think, but I've seen it on TMX, and they've been putting those trailer hitch balls in there. So I think it's just a 2x4 or something, and you traverse across it. And then I know at TMX they had the trailer hitches, and then it's another 2x4. I don't know if you have any more input on that. What exactly Just the Tip might be.
That's pretty much, it's basically hanging by your fingertips, kind of like the ultimate cliffhanger on Ninja Warrior. But then it requires that weird transition in the middle where you're going for a trailer hitch or like a doorknob, maybe something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And then you go back to just your fingertips for the second half again.
And your legs are free, right? There's nothing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a good point. Your legs are totally free, swing in any direction.
Okay.
The fingertip bar is just, a foot or 18 inches tall that the fingertips are braced onto.
I gotcha. And it's with those kind of obstacles, I don't know if they'll be, I know they haven't been over water at TMX, but I don't know if that'll be different because of this event or not. But that makes a lot of difference, when you're falling off in hay or if you're falling off in water.
That's a really good point. If you're falling off in hay, it's more dangerous, but if you do fail, you can just walk to the side, go take the penalty, and it's way faster.
Yeah.
So if there are, like we're going to talk about Funky Monkey in a minute, if there's no water under Funky Monkey, that's going to course. We could get 50 miles was rare last year, but it might not be that rare this year if there's no water under obstacles.
Yeah. Yeah.
After just the tip, the 10th obstacle on the map, it's called Funky Tough, which is a new name. It has the Funky Monkey logo though next to the obstacle.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll be different now because they put Funky Tough, but that's what I assumed it was Funky Monkey. Was it any different at WTM compared to the toughest last year? Like was the style any different? Because I think it was we went up monkey bars and through the wheels.
Yeah, so this year they've been doing it a couple different ways. They've had it just like that, just like they had it last year, where you go up monkey bars, 3 wheels down, and then actually 2 wheels and then a bar. They've also done it backwards, where the wheels are that's the first. It's not exactly backwards because the wheels are higher and everything kind of slopes downhill just because of the way the wheels are formatted.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Last year they made a point of having a couple of unique obstacles for Toughest Mudder, and this might be what that is, Funky Tough.
Yeah.
But it's obviously going to be.
What's that?
It's obviously going to have some kind of spin. It'll be something with monkey bars. We just don't know what.
Right. Yeah. So right there, you have two grip things for back to back. I don't know
just the tip, Funky Tough. You're right.
Yep.
After Funky Tough is Block Ness Monster.
Yeah, you definitely want to have somebody next to you on this one. These are those big rotating blocks. When I did the tougher here in North Carolina last fall, we had to do it by ourselves because we were just competing and we didn't help each other, and it was kind of the middle of the race. But it's very hard to do it by yourself because you kind of got to have somebody's got to get up there and hold on, and then somebody else has got to kind of push to get the thing rotating. And as it's rotating, as you are pushing to rotate it, you hop on, and it's just kind of like a cycle. It's the key there is to just keep that thing rotating. So definitely try to work together on that one.
Yeah, sometimes with this one, if I'm coming up to it and I see a group of people ahead of me, like you need to hustle up to get with them so that you have a group to go through with. Otherwise, you could be stuck there by yourself for a bit.
Yeah, yep.
After Block Ness Monster, the 12th obstacle is Berlin Walls.
Yeah, I think this is a 10-foot wall, if I'm right. But do you remember if they have like a 2x4 kind of to assist you, like to help you get up to the top of the wall? You know what they do? They usually have like a little, 2 feet off the ground. They'll have a 2x4 nailed to the wall. Last year at Toughest Mudder, they had shelves coming off of the Berlin Walls, so it was almost like a miniature Stage 5 clinger. And they were calling those T-boned or hero walls. But they're calling it Berlin Walls. So it could be the regular Berlin Walls where it's just a straight wall, 8-foot, 10-foot wall. Or it might be what they had last year. I think they got to put something there to help people up, or else it's just going to be a mess. Unless Yeah, I don't know. Do they have penalty loops for every obstacle? I don't even remember.
You know what? They'll have, like World's Toughest, there'll be some obstacles that are must complete, and there'll be some that have penalties. Usually the ones that have penalties are the ones that, like Funky Monkey.
Right, yeah. Those grip ones.
Just the tip will probably be a penalty. But stuff like Cage Crawl or Berlin Walls usually is not a penalty obstacle.
Yeah. I wouldn't overthink the Berlin Walls because you see 10-foot wall. I think there'll be something there to help you out to get you up to the top of it.
After Berlin Walls is Mud Mile 2.0.
Yeah, these are the rolling mud hills, so you'll probably get 3 or 4 mud mounds, so you should be in and out of water, but it depends on how much water is in the pits, I guess. This can be kind of difficult if there's no footing to get up over the mud hill. So again, if you have somebody there to give you a hand, or I know after a while there'll be permanent steps in there because so many people will be going through it. So that shouldn't be too bad.
And we'll be doing this on Saturday night after a full day of Saturday Tough Mudders going through there. So
yeah, I thought about that too. So the question, when we did Vegas last year, was there a race? No, there wouldn't have been because we started at noon, huh? So we were the first ones on that course?
No, there was a Tough Mudder like, I don't know, it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks before there. But
okay. So, because you remember that Mud Mile, that was pretty, they were like steps in there because so many people had been through it.
Yeah.
So.
After Mud Mile 2.0 is Rope-A-Dope.
Yeah, I don't know if rope-a-dope's always like it was at WTM, where they're staked into the ground in the water, where they're not free moving. Because that was almost more difficult. Because when we had to jump out to it to grab the rope, it didn't. You had no give, so it kind of just was like kind of stopped you as you hit it. And then you climb up the rope and you slide down another rope to the ground. And at World's Toughest, we had to jump out to it, right? You couldn't hop in the water and climb the rope.
Oh, yeah.
So that was difficult, after doing that a bunch of times. So I don't know how they'll do it this weekend. Do you know if Rope-A-Dope's always like that, where you have to jump out to it?
So they've had 2 varieties of it recently. At the Vegas 2 weeks before World's Toughest, the rope was free swinging. So you had to jump out to the rope and then just continue like Tarzan swing across the water.
Okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
At World's Toughest, you had to jump out to the rope. The rope would not move. You had to climb up and then slide down like a traverse once you got to the top of the rope. So I'd imagine it'd be the World's Toughest version, but it could be either.
Which was some advice on that, if it's like it was at World's Toughest where you got to slide down. I just went hand over hand to get down, but Chad Trammell, he would use his elbow, so like kind of chicken wing it,
sure, and
slide down it. If you're like obviously you're going to want to be wearing sleeves for that because that'll cut you right up. But there's an idea if you need some, like if you're worried about falling off as you traverse down.
And odds are you're going to be in a wetsuit, so you'll have some protection.
Yeah.
After Rope-A-Dope is Kong Infinity.
So this one is a kind of a newer obstacle. This is that big barrel. That's like the barrel they put telephone wire, electric wire, or those big power lines around. Anyway, and they'll put the rings on it. So and it kind of obviously it rolls. It's a barrel roll. And then it goes into monkey bars. So the best way I did this one was I would go backwards. So I would start with my back facing the other side of the obstacle, and then I would just kind of, hand over hand and pull back, and then I'd go sideways down the monkey bars, and that's how I was able to do it. But it's a very intimidating obstacle for sure, but it's not as bad as you might think.
The 16th obstacle is Everest 2.0.
This is the quarter pipe, and you want to hope that there's somebody at the top of the quarter pipe already. I know there's a few people that can run up it, but you're running all night, so you're gonna be tired, and things you might be able to do one time are going to get a lot harder. So, yeah, hopefully there's somebody at the top that is reaching an arm down to help pull you up and try to return the favor for the next person.
The 17th obstacle is Arctic Enema.
Yeah, this was a penalty loop at World's Toughest last year, so unless you fell off Funky Monkey, you didn't have to do it so much. But it's another obstacle that can change your performance, because if you're not good with the cold water, you slide down a tube into a tank of icy water and you're out of it. The goal here is get through it as fast as you can.
The last obstacle is Happy Ending, Slippery When Wet.
Yeah, so this is just the inclined wall, and I think that they had 2x4s and ropes down it at World's Toughest. I don't know if they do that at Toughest. Do you know about that?
So Happy Ending is new this year, but per pyramid scheme, they've always, at least the competitive events.
I'm confusing two obstacles, must be.
Well, it's easy to do because it's basically like a giant pyramid scheme.
Okay.
So they'd have to have ropes or some 2x4. It has to be something that Atkins can do solo. It's not something that you're not going to have four guys stacked on top of each other at a Toughest.
Yeah. So those obstacles at the end are piled right on top of each other. It's
all those upper body ones.
Yep. They're definitely a lot of grip to finish it out. Back to what you said with the wetsuit. I looked at the weather. I think it's 60 degrees at night right now. It's calling for. I don't know if you've been watching the weather. So I'm still kind of on the fence. I mean, I'll probably bring like a shorty wetsuit with me, but 60 degrees seems pretty warm to me for a wetsuit.
Yeah, so last year at Chicago and Atlanta, those were the two kind of warmest ones.
Uh-huh.
There were some people that would run in them and some would run without, maybe 50-50 at those two races.
Yeah.
So I would definitely still bring it, though. You're right. This is, of all the toughest mutters, this is probably going to be the warmest one. But I would definitely, you don't want to need it and not have it.
Right, exactly. I have a shorty and a full, and I probably won't bring the full one. And you never know, depending on where you are in the state or in the city, your temperature could be different. So I know sometimes when I look at weather here in Charlotte, it'll say like 50, and then I get out to where I'm running and it's like 35.
Yeah.
So you just, like you say, you want to be prepared, There's no harm in bringing it, at least.
Unless they do something unpredictable at Happy Ending, Slippery When Wet, it looks like there's no electrical obstacles on the course.
That's good. I hate those too. Last year we actually did have it, didn't we? Or at World's Toughest we had it under that, what they call it, where it's dark inside. The
Pandora's box.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly what it was. So yeah, I saw that they don't have that on our course. And what it was looking, about 470 feet of gain each lap. That'll add up pretty fast, I guess, for Texas. Looks like a lot of little short hills, though.
Yeah, and then there's like one big hill kind of right in the middle there. You see that?
Yeah, about a mile and a half in. So I don't know where that would put us on the map. But yeah, I don't know. I can't remember what we got at Vegas last year, but each lap. But that'll take a toll on you. Those little hills like that.
When I was in the Boy Scouts a long time ago, they told us that every 1,000 feet of elevation is equivalent to hiking a mile, as far as wear and tear on your body.
Oh, really?
So
I see that.
Every 2 laps count about an extra mile on, plus penalty laps are going to add up quickly also. Yeah,
for sure. Sometimes I know that was the case at World's Toughest. Sometimes it's beneficial to take the penalty lap, so keep that in mind too.
Yeah, talk about that. Strategically failing obstacles. What are your thoughts on that?
Last year there was one that was very strategic. There was a water crossing, and it was actually it was the cliff jump. It was in that area, but either way, I mean, just if it takes you a shorter amount of time to get through the penalty, or you're going to conserve grip strength or grip endurance, and you're going to stay warm, or you're going to be able to stay out of water, I would take the penalty loop. I mean, there's it's just a little bit extra running, but it can go a long way if you're staying dry and you're keeping your grip for those tougher obstacles. So yeah, just and I think they do the rolling start here with obstacles. Do they do that at a toughest, or is it all obstacles open immediately?
It won't be all immediately. Yeah, at World's Toughest, the first hour they give you with no obstacles.
Yeah.
At Toughest Mudder, they're always kind of cagey about it. Like, they'll say some obstacles will start opening at 30 minutes, and they don't really tell you exactly when, but there'll be some sprint time at the beginning, definitely.
Right. Okay. And I don't think they go into detail on how long the penalty loops are, but I know that, like, sometimes you can see a penalty loop. You know, you can see that it's short. Like, what was that? Yeah, Everest 2.0 last year at World's Toughest. Like, all you had to do was carry a sandbag like 50 feet. So instead of sitting there waiting for somebody to come and help you get up the wall, you know, you might want to just take that penalty real quick. You know, it's not going to hurt your finish. You know, you're still getting through it.
There's no shame in that game. Like, they set up the rules, and as long as you play by the rules, there's no...
Exactly. Yep.
Well, Brian, any last thoughts on that course map? What do you think?
Be ready for that gauntlet at the end each lap, you know. Just basically what we said about conserving your grip strength. If the penalty lap's worth it, keep that grip. You know, you're going to need it.
Brian, do you have any sponsors or anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I do. I can... Mud Gear is my big one. I've been with them now. It's my second year. You'll be able to see, I'll be wearing their gear out on the course for sure. Their socks, compression socks, and their compression shirts. Really love their product. Do
you like the knee-high socks or the ankle-high?
For this, it depends on the race, but for this type of race, I'll be wearing knee-high just because it's longer. I get more comfort for the longer races when I have the long socks on. And I think it'll be nice to kind of keep your legs protected. Like, it depends on what you're wearing. So, like, I'm a short shorts guy, so I always like to have long socks, but probably not in this event because it's a little bit colder. So I probably will have some kind of compression pants on. But I do like the long socks. Outside of Mud Gear, I've started working with EndurElite. It's kind of a newer product in the OCR community. They have a pre-workout called Perform Elite and a kind of like a sports drink called Sustain Elite, and I'll be taking in those two products during these 8 hours. Rhea is also working with them, so I'm pretty sure she'll be here this weekend, and I think she will be also taking those products.
Rhea Coble, the women's world champion.
Yeah, she's coming, right?
Yeah, she'll be there. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I figured. And working with FitLink Media, he's the one Michael Mark is kind of helping me work with these companies. And last but not least is Leaderboard Fit is coaching me, the guys, and Bracken Crocker. Those guys are getting me ready for this race. So hopefully we've done the right thing.
Brian, any last thoughts on Toughest Mudder South, the world's toughest mudder? Anything else?
I'm very excited. I can't wait to get out there and do this race. And good luck to everybody else doing it. We're going to have a blast out there.
Brian Gowiski, thanks much.
Yeah, thank you.
Special thanks to Brian Gowiski for appearing in this episode. Well done, Brian. Good luck this weekend. Good luck to everyone running. This will be a fun weekend, the first Toughest Mudder of the year. Looking forward to it. Be sure to leave a review for the show on Apple Podcasts and Amazon. Go spend time with someone you love. Alexa, tell me a joke.
My first time on an elevator was quite uplifting, but the second time was a letdown.
Alexa, tell me a joke.
What's an avocado's favorite arcade game? Whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole. Arcade game? Come on, Alexa, you're better than that.
I don't know that one.
Alexa, tell me a joke.
Why did Captain Kirk bring a lawnmower onto the Starship Enterprise? To boldly mow where no one has mowed before.
These are terrible. One more. Alexa, tell me a joke.
Why did the soccer goalie eat pancakes with his hands? He wanted sticky fingers.